وهو أصدق القائلين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون. صلوات. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create anything for no reason. The creation of the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, the solar system, everything has been created for a purpose. And it is important that we remember and recall and remind ourselves of those purposes. We are fortunate enough to once again witness the holy month of Ramadan, the month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the month in which the blessings of Allah is showered upon His creation. Every act in this holy month is considered an act of worship. Even those acts in which you are not actively doing anything. Even when we go to sleep in this holy month, the sleep is considered an act of worship. But there is a purpose behind this holy month, and we need to pay attention to that purpose. What is the purpose of this holy month? Why has fasting been obligated on us? Why has salat been obligated on us? Why has hajj been obligated on us? Quran and the mufassirin of the Quran have mentioned the purpose behind, the wisdom behind each and every act of worship. When it comes to the holy month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, fasting has been kutiba alaykumus siyam kama kutiba alal ladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. So the purpose of fasting, it has been obligated on you just as it was obligated on the nations before you. So this is not a new worship for Muslims. The previous divine religions were also obligated with this act of worship. It was there in all the previous nations in different forms. The rules were different, but it was there. And the objective, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you could become muttaqi. Taqwa is the desired or the objective of the month of fasting. That is something that we should all be striving to achieve in this holy month. Similarly, what is the purpose of salat? Why do we fast? Why do we worship 5 times a day? The purpose of salat, as mentioned in the sermon that Lady Sayyidah Salamullah Alaiha, please recite salawat, mentions in that sermon that she gave in the mosque, Tanzihan lil kibr, so that pride, you may be stripped of your pride. The purpose of salat is to get rid of takabbur. If you do not pay attention to these purposes, then these acts would be reduced to mere rituals. They would not fulfill the purpose. So it is important to keep attention, to pay attention to the purpose behind these acts. To pay attention behind the purpose of these things. What is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of my and your creation? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create me? Why did He create you? Was He in need of you? Did Allah need you? Yes or no? No. He was not in need of us. Yet He created us. Why did He create us? What does He want from us? Is there anything He wants from us? Yes or no? Yes. Why does He want that from us? Is He in need of it? No, He's not in need of it. What is the purpose? So why did He create me? What does the Holy Quran say regarding the purpose of our creation? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create the jinns and the humans except for the reason that they should worship me. So Allah created us so that we should worship Him. How would worship of Allah be executed? How can we worship Him? Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam, he addressed his companions saying, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna Allah azza wa jal ma khalaqal ibad illa liya'rifuhu. Allah did not create His servants except for the reason that they should have His ma'rifah. So the purpose of my and your creation, according to the Holy Quran, is worship of Allah. And according to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, ma'rifat of Allah. So why this difference? They are the mufassirin of the Quran. They cannot say anything that goes against the Quran. Very good. So without ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you cannot worship Him. So ma'rifat becomes the prerequisites for ibadat. That is the link between ma'rifat of Allah and the purpose of our creation. We cannot worship Allah if we do not know Him. That is why in Nahjul Balagha, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wassalam, he mentions Awwaluddin Ma'rifatuh. The first and foremost, the first sermon of Nahjul Balagha, if you can open it and look at it, the first and foremost in religion is the Ma'rifat of Allah. Without Ma'rifat of Allah, you cannot worship Him. Without His Ma'rifat, you cannot love Him. Without Ma'rifat, you cannot do anything. That is why Ma'rifat is so important and is so valuable. And Imam Hussain Islam in this hadith, he himself refers to this link between Ma'rifah when he says, Inna Allah Azza wa Jal ma khalaqal ibad illa liya'rifu. Allah did not create His servants except that they should know Him. The very next statement he says, فَإِذَا عَرَفُوهُ عَبَدُوهُ. When they will know Him, they will worship Him. When they will know Him, they will worship Him. Today we are worried about our children not turning to religion, not coming to religion, not turning to prayers, not worshipping Allah. Where is the problem? Maybe they don't know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if they knew Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would worship. So sometimes the reason why something is not been accomplished is the lack of ma'rifah. And then the next statement in the same tradition, Imam says, فَإِذَا عَبَدُوهُ. And when they will worship Him, what will happen? إِسْتَغْنَوْا بِعِبَادَتِهِ عَنْ عِبَادَتِ مَا صِوَاهُ. Through worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will become free of worshipping others. It is in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that freedom lies. Freedom, true freedom that is achievable for us humans lies in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we do not worship Allah, we will always be slave to something. To our carnal desires, to wealth, to status, to fame, whatever. Only those who submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can free themselves. And this is the freedom that Islam wants all of us to achieve. Freedom from everything else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you cannot free yourselves from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether you like it or not. You cannot free yourselves from that slavery that is there, that is inbuilt. It can never be removed. But we should not be slaves of anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the Imam came to this point, one of the companions stood up and asked, فَمَا مَعْرِفَةُ اللَّهِ. O son of the Holy Prophet, may my parents be sacrificed over you. فَمَا مَعْرِفَةُ اللَّهِ. What is the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This ma'rifat that is so important, that is the purpose of our creation, through which we will become free from worshipping others. What is this ma'rifat? The Imam replied, Ma'rifatullah is, he said, Ma'rifatu ahli kulli zamanin إِمَامَهُمْ الَّذِي يَجِبُ عَلَيْهِمْ طَاعَتُهُ. That the people of every time, they have the marifah of the Imam of their time, whose itaat is wajib on them. He equated the marifat of Allah with the marifat of the Imam of the time. What is the link? Why is the itaat, why is the marifat of Allah equated to the marifat of the Imam? This link is so important that in other traditions, you've already heard those traditions. Man mata walam ya'rif imam zamanihi mata mitatan jahiliya. Whoever dies and does not know the Imam of his time, he has died a death of jahiliya. He knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he knows the Prophet, but does not know the Imam of his time. The death of jahiliya. Why? Why is the marifat of the Imam so important that without knowing the Imam, the death becomes the death of jahiliyyah? A person has traveled his journey, he has accepted Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he accepted the Prophet, and yet denying the hujjat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will result in a death of jahiliyyah. Why? Is it because his marifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was incomplete, which resulted in an incomplete marifat of the Prophet, which resulted in the incomplete marifat of the Imam, and he could not pick or decide the rightful Imam from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also remember, this marifat is so important and so stressed upon in religious traditions that your divine reward for whatever you do depends on the level of your marifah. Everybody fasted today. All of you would attend programs throughout this. Everybody goes to a walk for the walk in Arba'een. Everybody goes for Hajj. Those who are blessed. The thawab, the reward that everybody is going to get from the same act depends not on how much time you spend in the majlis. It depends on the level of your ma'rifah. And there are traditions that point to it. Once a person, an Arabi, a Bedouin, came to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He came to the Imam and he said that I have become the guarantor of paying the blood money. So somebody had killed somebody. And according to Islamic laws, if the murder was unintentional, then you have to pay compensation, a monetary compensation. 100 camels. And if a camel is around $1,000, that would amount to $100,000. So he said that is the amount of monetary debt that I have to pay. I have become a guarantor, but I do not have the money. I don't have the resources to pay that. So I decided to ask someone who is most, a family, a household, who is most kareem, who is most blessed, who is going to bless me with that. And I did not find anyone more kareem than the family of the holy household. That is why I have come to you. So he has a request. He's making a request to one of the members of the Ahlul Bayt. Just as we all make requests to them. And according to our perception, the Imam would have fulfilled his need. Look at the reply the Imam gave. He said, I'll ask you 3 questions. I will ask you 3 questions. If you answer only one of them, I will give you 1/3 of what you need. If you answer 2 questions, I'll give you 2/3. If you answer all 3, I'll give you all 3. He was shocked at this reply. He wasn't expecting this reply. He turned back to the Imam and said, Misluka, yes, alo and misli, would the likes of you ask the likes of me? Wanta min ahlil ilm wa sharaf, while you are one who belongs to the family of knowledge and sharaf. How could someone who is an alim ask someone who is a jahil? His marifat, you could tell his marifat from the statement. He knew who he was talking to. The Imam replied, why not? I have heard my grandfather say Al-ma'ruf biqadri al-ma'rifah. The doing goodness towards a person, ma'ruf towards a person, is based on his ma'rifah. So I will test your ma'rifah, and you will be blessed based on your ma'rifah. That is the importance of ma'rifah. That even when it comes to giving worldly prizes and worldly benefits, they look at our ma'rifah. So how important would ma'rifah be when it comes to divine and spiritual rewards? It is tied up with our ma'rifah. That is why any amount of effort you can spend in increasing your ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ma'rifat of the Holy Prophet, the ma'rifat of the Imam, it is worth it. We need to invest our time in increasing our ma'rifah. Because once the ma'rifah is increased, then the same amount of time you spend in prayers, the same amount of time you spend in fasting would be rewarded many times its face value. That is the importance of ma'rifah. And it is the lack of ma'rifah that resulted in the scenario where people who were waiting for the divine prophet, people who were waiting for Imam Hussain alayhi salam in Karbala, when the Imam came, when the prophet came, they did not support him. We all call ourselves the Muntazir. We are all the Muntazireen of the Imam, right? And when we all call the Imam for his reappearance, Al-Ajal, Al-Ajal. But this is not the first time a group of community or a group of people are waiting for this divine Savior. It has happened in the past. And what is scary is the fact that not every Muntazir ends up being a Nasir. Not every Muntazir ends up becoming a Nasir. The Jews had settled in Medina. Why had the Jews settled in Medina? They were waiting for the coming of the final prophet. They had read in their books that the final prophet will come from this region. They were waiting for the prophet. They were Muntazireen in their time, waiting for the prophet. And there were two tribes, the tribes of Aus and Khazraj, who lived in Medina at that time. And they would fight among themselves. They were uncivilized. They would fight. They would have wars against themselves, kill each other. And these Jews, they would tell them that we are waiting for our prophet. And once he comes, we are going to wage a war against the infidels, the idol worshippers, and you would be wiped off. And when the prophet actually declared his messengerhood, the first people to accept him from Medina were the tribes of Aus and Khazraj. They accepted Islam while those who were waiting, they were left behind. This has happened before. It can happen again. People of Kufa, they sent letters to Imam Hussain, Al-Ajal, Al-Ajal. The last statement of those letters were Al-Ajal, Al-Ajal, Yabna Rasulullah. We are waiting for you. Hurry, hurry. And when Imam al-Islam came to Kufa, he wasn't even allowed entry into Kufa. It has happened in the past. Today we are waiting for the 12th Imam. May Allah hasten his reappearance. And not only that, and make us among the helpers of the 12th Imam. But for that, it is again extremely important that we develop and improve our ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this time. Because one of the attributes of the helpers of the 12th Imam is mentioned in tradition. It is mentioned in tradition that when he will appear, is a kharaja. When he will appear, what will happen? Kharaja min hazal amr man kana yara annahu min ahlihi. Those who think that they are from this affair, those who thought that they were from among the holders of the wilayat of this affair, kharaja min hazal, they would leave this wilayat. وَدَخَلَ فِيهِ شِبْهُ عَبَادَةِ الشَّمْسِ وَالْقَمَرِ. The tradition says that when he will come, those who thought that they were from among his followers would exit. And those who resemble, those who worship the sun and the moon, they would enter his wilayah. When he reappears, those who were waiting for him, those who thought that they were his followers and his helpers, kharaja min hazal amr, they would leave that amr. And those who resemble the sun and the moon worshippers, they would enter his wilayah. This will happen. So what are the attributes? What are the key ingredients for someone who wants to be the follower of the 12th, or the helper of the 12th Imam? If we do not have that key ingredient within us, we will meet a similar fate that was met with the previous groups and nations who were waiting. Today I'd like to mention two important traits. One trait of those who will end up being the helpers, the Nasireen of the 12th Imam, is ittiba'ul haqq. Those who follow the truth. Versus ittiba'ul batil. Versus those who follow batil. Following the truth would be one of their key ingredients, one of their key characteristics, key attributes. It is haqq that they follow, it is truth that they submit to. The quarrels that they have among themselves will not be over, this is my land and this is my book and this is my property. Most of the quarrels people have today, even over religion, is based not on truth, is based on my religion. This is my religion. This is better because it is my religion. This is the religion of my forefathers. This is something that I've been doing for hundreds of years. Even our fights over mosques and centers and majalis is not because of truth. It's because I've been doing this for so many years. I can't let go of it. This is the tradition of my forefathers. So it is a fight just like the fight people have over wealth and property and honor. So their quarrels over religion is also because of that. It is not because of ittiba'ul haqq. Success and those who are going to end up being the followers of the 12th Imam will have ittiba'ul haqq as a key. They will submit and surrender to truth no matter where it is, even if it is against them. You see that in the story of Karbala, you see that in the Holy Quran as well. In the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, kaffara anhum sayyi'atihim wa aslaha balahum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hide, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hid their wrongdoings and fixed their affairs. Why? ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا اتَّبَعُوا الْبَاطِلِ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّبَعُوا الْحَقِّ. Because those who disbelieved, they followed the batil, and those who believed, they followed the truth. Another tradition mentioning the sifat, the attributes of the 12th, of the followers of the 12th Imam, Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam says, Salawat padli, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa awli. Says, he mentions Rijalun Arafullaha haqqa ma'arifateh. These are people who have the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way they should have it. Wa hum ansarul mahdi. They are the followers. They are the helpers of the Mahdi. Arafullaha haqqa ma'arifateh. They recognized Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala haqqa ma'arifateh, the way they should have. The ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so important, even in today's time. Ittiba'ul haq, following the truth, is so important, even in today's time. In the story of Karbala, all of you must have heard when the Imam was going and he was being followed by his son, Ali al-Akbar. During their travel, Imam alayhi salam took a short nap on his horse, and when he woke up, he recited Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. And his son asked him, why did you read this kalima? Why did you read the statement? And he told him about the dream that he saw. And he interpreted the dream in a manner that we are moving towards death and we would soon face death. What was the reply that Janabi Ali Akbar gave at that point? Alasna alal haq? Are we not on haq? Are we not on haq? If we are on haq, then it does not matter whether we meet death or death meets us. Ittiba'ul haq. That is a key feature of the helpers of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and in a similar manner, a key attribute of the followers and helpers of the 12th Imam as well. The second important feature is the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will have the ma'rifat of Allah, a deep understanding of the ma'rifat of Allah. For if they lacked the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would not be able to recognize the Imam of their time. This is something we need to invest into. And in the coming days, this is one of the exercises we will be going over, is trying to deepen our understanding, our ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is in line with the instructions, with the command given to Zurara by our 6th Imam. Zurara came to the 6th Imam, and the Imam gave him a piece of advice. He said, Lil ghulame ghaibatan. There's going to be qabla an yaqum, before the revolution of the 12th Imam, there is going to be a ghaibat. And in this ghaibat, their people will get divided into different categories. Some will think that he left this world, being his father, the 11th Imam, left this world without a child. Others will think that he left while he was pregnant. His child, his wife, was pregnant with him. Some would think that he left this world while he was 2 years old. So people will get divided into different, people will have different views regarding the 12th Imam. And then he mentions why this is going to happen. He said, غَيْرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ يُحِبُّ أَن يَمْتَنِعَ الشِّيعَ. It is not but for the reason that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to test his Shia. This ghaibat is a test for all of us. Allah is testing us, who will stay, who will continue to believe, and who will begin to disbelieve. This is a test. So what should we do in this time of test? What is our responsibility? We are indebted to people like Zurara, who asked the right question at the right time. He said, at that time, it's the time of the 6th Imam, Zurara said, إِذَا أَدْرَكْتُ ذَلِكَ الزَّمَانِ أَيُّ شَيْءٍ أَعْمَلْ أَيَّ شَيْءٍ أَعْمَلْ. If I am able to get to that time, if I meet, or if I live that long, that I am in that time of ghaibat, أَيَّ شَيْءٍ أَعْمَلْ. What amal should I do? This applies to all of us. And it seems like even in those days, people did not think that the ghaibat is going to become so long. Time of the 6th Imam. So if I meet that time, if I am able to live that long, what action should I do? What action should I perform? The Imam replied, and this is inshallah going to be the theme of our next 14 to 15 days of exercise that we are going to do here inshallah. The Imam replied, Iza adrakta haza zaman, if you are in that time, fa'tu bihaza dua. Recite this dua. Make this dua. What is that dua? It says, Allahumma arifni nafsak. فَإِنَّكَ إِن لَمْ تُعَرِّفْنِي نَفْسَكَ لَمْ أَعْرِفْ نَبِيَّكَ. Oh Allah, make me know yourself. Let me have your ma'rifah. Arifni nafsak. Let me recognize you. Why? فَإِنَّكَ إِن لَمْ تُعَرِّفْنِي نَفْسَكَ. If you do not make me know yourself, what will happen? لَمْ أَعْرِفْ نَبِيَّكَ. I will not know your Nabi. Ma'rifat of the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala depends on the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Please recite a salawat. Salli ala Muhammad. Ma'rifat of the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala depends on the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a dua that we have been told to recite in the time of ghaibat. It's not about the ma'rifat of the Imam, the ma'rifat of Allah. Because we will not be able to identify the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if you do not know, if you do not have the ma'rifat of Allah. Then the next statement of the dua, Allahumma arifni nabiyyak. O Allah, make me know your Nabi. فَإِنَّكَ إِن لَمْ تُعَرِّفْنِي نَبِيَّكَ. For if you do not introduce your Nabi to me, if you do not make your Nabi known to me, لَمْ أَعْرِفْ حُجَّتَكَ. I will not recognize your hujjah. The Imam of the time. So the ma'rifat of the Imam of the time depends on the ma'rifat of the Prophet of Allah. And the ma'rifat of the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala depends on the ma'rifat of Allah. This is the path we have to take. Starting from the ma'rifat of Allah, leading to the ma'rifat of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Leading to the ma'rifat of the Imam of our time. The third statement, Allahumma arifni hujjatak. Oh Allah, make me know your hujjah. Make me recognize your hujjah. Why? فَإِنَّكَ إِن لَمْ تُعَرِّفْنِي هُجَّتَكَ ظَلَلْتُ عَنْ دِينِي. For if you do not make me know your hujjah, what will happen? ظَلَلْتُ عَنْ دِينِي. I will be deviated from my religion. I will be deviated from my religion. So a lack of ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will result in me not identifying the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a lack in the ma'rifat of the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will result in me not identifying the Imam of my time. And if I do not identify the Imam of my time, my religion is gone. The ma'rifat of Allah, the ma'rifat of the Holy Prophet, if it does not end up in the ma'rifat of the Holy Imam, will not benefit us. Because in that case, we will not be able to fulfill the purpose of our creation, which is ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we'll get to that in the coming days. How and why is it that the ma'rifat of the Imam, if that does not happen, mata mitatan jahiliya, the death is the death of jahalat. We will not be fulfilling the purpose of our creation. So it all starts from the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is where we need to start from. A proper, a deeper understanding of the ma'rifat of Allah will lead to the ma'rifat of the Holy Prophet. And the ma'rifat of the Holy Prophet will lead to the ma'rifat of the Holy Imam. And if we do not take this channel, we will be deviated. Let me give you a few examples. People who fail to develop a deeper understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His attributes, and spent their time looking at the attributes of the Imam of their time, the Fazail of the Aimma, they became deviated to the extent that they thought that these are those who created everything. They thought that the Imams are the Khaliq. You find people among in Pakistan and India and in different countries who have become astray because they now think that they are Na'udhu God. Imams are not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have identified, they have looked at their fazail, but because they did not have the marifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they thought that these are God. They turned these individuals into gods because of the lack of their marifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Had they had the proper marifat of Allah, this would not have happened. The objections that people raise even today regarding the Imam and his ghaibat, how can someone live for 1,000 years and still be young? Right? We have these questions. Again, this goes back to the lack of ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if we do not know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we will not know the Holy Prophet. If you do not know the Holy Prophet, you will not know the Imam of your time. How does this go back to the lack of ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? All of you must have heard the story of Hazrat Uzair alayhi salatu wassalam in the Holy Quran, when he was passing through a town and he saw the town turned upside down, everybody was dead. He turned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and asked him, how are you going to raise them back from the dead? And what happened? Allah took his life away. So he was traveling on his donkey and the donkey died and he also died. And he stayed dead for how many years? 100 years. Very good. 100 years. And when he was brought back to life, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him, Kam labithta? How much time did you spend? And what he replied? Labithtu yawman aw ba'za yawmin. A day or part of a day. 100 years passed by and he said, day or part of the day. The Holy Quran says, Bal labithta mi'ata amin. No, you have spent 100 years. Fanzur ila ta'amik. Look at your food. Lam yatasanna. It hasn't even changed. It's still in the same form. 100 years have passed. What is the average life of a food item not kept in the fridge? How long will it stay fresh? For a few hours, a day at most. A day at most. A food item whose average life is a day at most. If Allah wills, He can keep it in the same state for 100 years. God, who can keep a food item in its original, preserve a food item in its original state for 100 years, many 1,000 times his average life. Why is it impossible or why is it difficult for him to keep the Imam of his time in the same state for 1,000 years? Wow. So this objection, how can the Imam live for so long? Where is it coming from? Lack of marifat of the Imam or lack of marifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Lack of marifat in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is why in the time of ghaibat, we have been instructed by the Imam to recite this dua. And remember, and we will stop there, we are already out of time. This dua, recitation of dua, there are certain duas that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'm not going to fulfill certain duas of my servants. If a person does not work hard and sits in his house and prays for sustenance, Allah says, I'm not going to provide him sustenance. Because the key Allah has given it in your hands. That is the sabab, that is the wasila to work hard. You go and struggle and then pray. A person who is upset as his spouse and he wants separation from his spouse and he sits home and prays, and I separate me from my spouse, Allah is not going to accept this dua. Allah says, I have given the formula of divorce in your hands. The key is in your hands. You can make that happen. So something that is given to you, that is in your hands, if you do not use that and you keep praying, that prayer will not be accepted. So with dua comes dawa. You need to make an effort. The same with this dua. Allahumma arifni nafsak. Allah, make me recognize yourself. It's not just a matter of dua. We need to make an effort to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For if we know Him, we will be able to know His holy Prophet. Wallah, make us know your holy Prophet. For if we know him, only then we will be able to know the hujjat of our time. Allah, make us know your hujjah. For if that does not happen, we will become deviated from religion. So in line with this instruction, from tomorrow onwards, inshallah, we will be going through the marifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, trying to develop a deeper understanding of marifat. And it will not be a monologue, inshallah, it will be a dialogue where we'll have question answers to and fro, and in a classroom style setting, where we can take our spiritual journey from the marifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the way going to the marifat of the Holy Prophet, eventually ending, inshallah, if time permits, to the marifat of the Imam of our time, inshallah. Please recite the salawat. Allah.